All right, what's going on, ladies? Welcome back to another episode of the Ladies Strong Fitcast. Today, I have two special guests with me, Coach Paula and Coach Sarah, and we're going to be talking about recovery and breathing techniques during your workout.
So the big question is this: how were two women who didn't cheat and purchase a gym franchise model, how were they able to spread their mission and purpose by empowering and transforming hundreds of women's lives through fitness, nutrition, mindset, and accountability with a micro gym business model of women only? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. We are Lady Strong Fitness.
All right, ladies. So before we get into our kind of our topic for today, I want to do a quick intro. A lot of people listening to this podcast right now already know Coach Paula. You may have seen her on a previous podcast, and maybe this is your first one, but you've seen her in the studio, you've seen her around. But I want to do a quick intro for Coach Sarah briefly. She is the newest coach here at Lady Strong Fitness. So I'm going to have her just talk a little bit about herself before we get into our topic. So Coach Sarah, why don't you tell anybody listening how long you've been in the fitness industry?
So let's see, I have been in the fitness industry as far as career-wise, roughly about 4.5 years. But I've been on my own like fitness journey, probably say just shy of like 10 years at this point. So really focusing on different aspects of nutrition and kinesiology and that kind of thing for about 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And 10 years is a long time. And I think that, even just kind of by going into a gym, you learn so much about fitness, about nutrition, about exercise and yourself, really. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this types of different styles of training that you've done in the past, or maybe you have coached in the past?
Yeah. So I started out in group fitness. I was, just teaching that like a group fitness circuit kind of platform, doing like HIIT training. Originally focusing a little bit on some like lightweight training and a lot of cardio kind of stuff. I ended up taking over that program, turning it into more of like a full, like a functional movement kind of program where we focus not only on the strength training aspect, but also on like plyometrics, in addition to like that cardio and calisthenics, like that kind of stuff. So it was more, focused on like real world application, which I thought was really important in, giving our members. And then I moved into personal training for about a year and a half or so. I did that for a little bit in a studio, kind of focusing more on like, it was like more for like osteoporosis, like older clients, really focusing on maintaining strength as they aged, maintaining bone density, that kind of thing. And then I moved into health coaching, which is what I do in addition to coaching at LSF now, and where we focus on like the behavioral aspect of habit change when you want to implement a strength, or like a fitness routine or a dietary change, or you need more sleep or whatever it is. We talk about through like the barriers to making those healthy changes and making that lifestyle happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you made a lot of good points, and that just talks to your experience in the fitness industry, because there's a lot of different parts to it. It's not just, coming into the studio and working out. There's a lot that goes into it. It is nutrition. It is focusing on your health, where that's at, your nutrition, where your head's at mentally. And so there's a lot of different things. And so that shows that you just kind of, you pick up and you learn what you need to. And that's awesome. That's a lot of great tools to have. Especially for our ladies in the studio. So you also do running too. You're a big runner. You run marathons and do that type of thing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like originally how I got into fitness. Is I just like, I wasn't athletic when I was a kid. I always feel like that's really important to tell people, is like I had already had children. I was already in my like mid to late 20s. And I just like one day felt like running, like Forrest Gump. Like I just felt like running. And so I just decided I was going to do it. And like I put on some shoes, and those first few miles were really painful. And then I ran like my first 5K, and it felt really good. And then I decided that I would run a half marathon. And then I decided that I would run a full marathon. And now I've run 4 of those to date. And, and I just really loved running. But given some like orthopedic issues that I personally have, I needed to add like more strength, something else, cross training into that in order to maintain that with my hips and my knees and my back and that kind of stuff. So that led me to wanting to get into strength training, but that was really intimidating. So I started out at a gym, that did classes and weight training and stuck with that for a little while. But then kind of went off on my own and started learning more about all the functional sides of everything, and then started training that way, really more of a comprehensive style of training.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, you've done a little bit of everything. And again, it just shows to your knowledge. So, with that said, I kind of want to hop into our topic for today. We get a few questions in the studio, kind of asking us, during our workouts, how we should be controlling our breathing or recovering in between a set or a time interval, especially when it comes to things like strength, like cardio, how we should be kind of taking those rest periods and using them to our advantage. So
Mhm.
I'm going to ask Coach Paula, what if a lady comes up to you in the studio and asks, or you see somebody kind of, struggling to catch their breath, what is your kind of advice to them, or what would you say to them, Coach Paula?
I would say, I think a lot of us in the beginning, especially starting our fitness journey, we don't know what proper breathing techniques are at all. We tend to breathe in more through our mouth because we think it brings in more oxygen that way, when in fact it doesn't. I mean, the preferred way to breathe in, of course, is through the nose, because of the hairs in there. They lack the toxins. They take off all the toxins and the bacteria that is trying to come in, and the nasal airways, I mean, they go straight into our lungs rather than just kind of all over the place through the mouth and stuff like that. So I think I would say, make sure you are opening your chest up wide. A lot of us tend to put our hands on our knees and kind of like bend over, and they're like breathing super hard. And it's like, no, put your hands on your head, open that chest up, in through the nose, of course, out through the mouth. So I think that would be the biggest thing right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that sometimes we can't see in the studio. And I try to tell them, kind of stay upright. They just don't want to go into that hunched over position. It's not going to help. It's only going to hurt them, right? So being able to take that time and actually tell them to focus on their breathing and where they're at, kind of in the spot that they're at. And just, yeah, like you said, control, take it in through the nose and then push it out, exhale. Why don't we go over to you, Coach Sarah? Let's hear your feedback and what advice you would give.
Yeah, I think it's good to touch on this because I always say in those rest periods, like take a deep breath and yeah, okay. What are we doing? So when we're taking that deep breath, yes, you want to expand the chest, you're going to breathe in through the nose, and you want to think about filling your belly up. You want to get down to the bottom of your lungs and really fill everything up, taking a nice deep breath, that way, thinking about expanding. And if if you're new to fitness, if you're uncomfortable, with the workout, you may, start breathing really quick and shallow, and then you're not replenishing that oxygen, to carry to those muscles that you need in order to begin that next set. So yeah, just really focusing on getting down to the lungs, breathing into the belly, they say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you made a great point. And as coaches, we say that a lot. And we really, during between sets or during rest periods, we say, hey, ladies, make sure take a deep breath in. Let's try to control that breathing, bring it back down. And sometimes you can tell, especially in the heat of a moment, it might go in one ear and out the other. To a lot of these people, they're like, hold on, coach. Like, I can't even think about that. I'm trying to catch my breath. Well, it's like, wait, okay, let's think about that. Control, breathe in and exhale. And so we talk about a lot in between workouts, but what I kind of want to touch on now going into is how they're breathing during the exercise, because I think that's where they find themselves struggling during the rest periods, is because maybe they're not breathing correctly during the movement. Now, we always try to say, like, maybe if it's, they're holding a plank or they're doing exercises, they want to be breathing during the movements. A lot of times, and even as a coach, sometimes I find myself holding my breath and I'm like, wait, inhale and then exhale during the exercises or during isometric exercises. Don't hold your breath during a plank or those types of things. So that is super important. So why don't I go ahead, Sarah? I'm going to go back to you. What's your advice there? Like during exercises, how would you cue that?
Yeah. I agree. You always like especially when you're in a plank, you start shaking, and you have those like quick, shallow breaths. And in order to control your breathing, you do need to like start taking those deeper breaths, because then you're getting like the quality of the breath over the quantity of the breath, right? So if you kind of have to get into your head just a little bit to like regulate that move, that breathing. When I'm holding a plank, I still think about breathing into that belly. I think about taking, and if you need to take a quick breath, sure, but you really need to make sure you're really getting down into that belly. And same thing if you're doing like a cardio movement, like when we do those box step ups, it's oxygen in, oxygen out, but breathing into that belly. And you can be breathing a little bit heavier, but maintaining that quality of the breath as you're, making that movement a little bit faster will help you to maintain that speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's just another one of the things that we have to keep reminding them, is that if you're actually kind of holding your breath in during an exercise, you're actually making it a lot harder on yourself. For example, we want to be inhaling and then exhaling during the hard part of the movements to help you, again, because you could be making it tougher on yourself, and then also harder to recover and bring that breath down during rest. Coach Ball, do you have anything else that you want to touch on during this before we?
Yeah, I feel like we tend to hold our breath because in our heads we're like, oh, well, it's going to engage my core more, and it's going to engage certain muscles more, and I'm going to get more out of it, when in fact it becomes sort of like a crutch in a way, because we obviously need oxygen in our muscles in order to perform the activity perfectly or in the perfect form and stuff like that. So holding that breath, I mean, also the risk factor, the injury risk factor that you're putting upon your body as well. I mean, if you're doing a very heavy deadlift and you're holding your breath the entire time, I mean, hernia is like on the top of your list right there. I mean, it's very injury prone and all that stuff. So it's very important to remember to breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul, I think you made a lot of great solid points in that. And I think it's just something that we have to continue to remind everybody, especially going through their workouts. And I encourage anybody who's listening to this to think about your breathing the next time you come in for a workout, and see maybe how that can affect maybe the quality of your exercises, of your reps, and then how you're recovering in between each set. So I encourage you to try it out the next time and kind of see where that takes you. And so before we kind of wrap things up here, Coach Paula, Coach Sarah, do you guys have any last things that you want to touch on before we close it out?
Go ahead, Paula.
Oh, I was just thinking, I just really think it's very important to realize to breathe, because even, me as a coach, when I'm working out, sometimes I forget to do it either. I get so caught up in an exercise or so caught up in my form that I'm like, I'm going to hold my breath until this is done. And it's really bad to think like that. You really have to incorporate that breathing, bringing that oxygen into your body, into your muscles to perfect that movement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you might like great points. And I'm going to do a quick shout out to Radka. If you've ever taken a yoga class with her, I'm sure she emphasizes the importance of breathing as well, and just kind of making that connection. And so if you haven't been able to take a yoga class with Coach Radka, make sure you try that out with her as well, because I'm sure she stresses the importance of all that breathing techniques and things like that too. So we're going to wrap it up on that note. Coach Paula, thank you for all your great points. Coach Sarah, make sure if you guys haven't met Coach Sarah yet, you get in to take one of her classes in the next couple of weeks. She's officially on the schedule to go check out one of her classes as well. And thank you so much to everybody who's listening. You know where to find us in studio on Facebook if you have any further questions. Coach, reach out to any of the coaches. We'll be happy to talk to you about it. But thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all, you ladies, in studio. See ya.
Thanks for joining us today. If you like this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or whatever your favorite place is to listen to podcasts. And if you really liked this episode, please leave a review for us on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.